Let's go to Xfinity third chair. Time for some fan-submitted questions presented by Xfinity. I love this first one, by the way, Colt. Who would be your number one pick in a Big Ten fantasy football draft? I've got some ideas, but I'd love to hear yours.
Oh my goodness, this is I've been thinking about this for a while since we sent the script yesterday. A lot of good players here, right? A lot of good football players, running backs, receivers. I mean, listen, Jeremiah Smith, the young guy, I'm an offensive guy, so that would be up there. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. If we're playing fantasy football in the Big Ten, I'm taking Kurtis Rourke. Listen, he's leading the league and leading his league, but also the country in pass efficiency. He drops dimes. He doesn't feel pressure. One of the things I loved about what Kirk Cignetti said about him was that, look, I like him because he's a low blood pressure guy. And I was like, expand on that a little bit. He was like, listen, he's the same guy on Tuesdays as he is on Fridays, as he is on game days. Like, things don't go well, it doesn't matter. He steps back in and just rolls. Like, you can't ever tell an ounce of emotion off of him. And I love that. And then his game backs it up, right? He's got weapons to throw to. His offensive line is a veteran group. They're strong. They can run the ball to protect him. And he puts the ball in the money. Like, so from a fantasy football perspective, I don't know how you don't go with him.
I know how you don't go with him. It's by picking Kaleb Johnson, number one. Kaleb Johnson has 19 touchdowns. He's got 3 games with 3 touchdowns this season. He's been knocking on the door of a 4-touchdown game. If I'm going just strictly fantasy football, I want a guy who is getting it done on the ground like that, because that is not easy to find. And I know in this conference, you've got some great running backs, but there is nobody even close to what he's doing right now. And I know you mentioned it. Their offensive line is probably the best Iowa offensive line I've seen in at least 4 or 5 years. The way that they're blocking together, Tim Lester coming in as the offensive coordinator, the inside zone, the zone read, everything that they've brought, man, Kaleb Johnson has benefited more than anybody in the country. So that'd be my number one pick. And
that's not a bad one. That's not a bad one. I mean, listen, I think those 2 guys are in the running for, Big Ten Player of the Year, right? I mean, they got to be at the top.
Yeah, those 2. Dylan Gabriel is going to be a fun race the rest of the way. Second question submitted this week. Who has the best student section in the Big Ten? I know you haven't been to every school yet, but you've been to a couple of them. So where would you rate it?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think I'm very excited about going to Penn State. I mean, I never got to play there in college, but Penn State's always good, right?
Yes.
And you hear about the whiteout game and the guys that the AQ Shipleys, all these guys, that Trace McSorley, these guys that Saquon, the teammates that I've had throughout the years, just talk about like that game when they go wide out and it's at night and it's in Happy Valley. Like, there ain't nothing better. And so for me, I'm excited to feel that, and I hope that their fans bring the energy this week. I know we talked about that earlier. Just the importance of this game for Penn State coming off an emotional loss. So I want to do that. I mean, I called the Nebraska game early in the season, and they were, I played there a couple of times. That stadium is incredible. Yes. I mean, not just their student section, but their fan. I mean, how 300, 400 sellouts straight through the years. I mean, they're there early, they're loud, and that would be a hard one to beat. And I've experienced that as a player as well. It's a really fun place to play. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaving a few out. I mean, but that's really from my experience in the Big Ten. I played at Ohio State early in my career, and that was wild. I mean, it was the first game that they had when they brought in lights. They normally play during the daytime, but back in 2005, they brought in the lights, and wow. I mean, my ears were hurting for a week after that. And so there's some awesome stadiums here. I wasn't, to be fully honest, I wasn't that impressed with Michigan. I mean, Michigan's a huge stadium, but it wasn't like crazy. I mean, there was that, I didn't feel like it was too loud or too rowdy or I mean, that's my take. I don't know, but like that's how I feel.
I would tell you that it also depends on the type of season everybody's having. Michigan last year, when they were as dominant as they were, fans were that much more excited for them. And that's a program that still it's not a fair weather program to say, but they are more excited about their team. Naturally, it's going to be a little loud, a little more insane. I would say you mentioned a lot of the good ones. Camp Randall, Wisconsin is high up there as well. Their students are very into it. But the key in this question is best student section in particular. I
Yeah.
think that
What about Oregon? I haven't been to Oregon.
Oregon's got to be very much high up there. That's one of the
Yeah.
loudest stadiums I've ever experienced. Period. Forget just
Wow.
overall vibe or whatever. Loudest. It is loud, and they are highly, I would say, entertained is one thing, but educated is the other one. They are smart fans. They know when to make noise, how to make noise,
Oh yeah.
when to boo, when to cheer. All of those little things that you don't think about, they're engaged. So that's what I look for is engaged fans and engaged student sections. I would say Oregon. I know you mentioned Nebraska very much in there. Penn State for sure is in there. Wisconsin definitely. And I would say the one that probably is a little more underrated is Iowa. I think Kinnick. It's another one of these towns where Iowa football is so important and it is the
Yeah.
biggest thing to do in town. And that does stand for a lot. So I always love going, especially a night game at Kinnick. You can feel the energy in there as we did last week.